Hello everyone, I hope we are doing well today, and I spent a lot of time this weekend looking at all of the various call to arms weapons, all of their assorted roles, and trying to figure out what actually is the best roles, if any of these are actually worth going for, going into Renegades, which ones you should be saving if you find this, that, and the other. Anyway, this is my definitive guide to all of the god roles on all the call to arms weapons. Alright, here we go. Starting off, we're going to go over the 4 Arms Week weapons that are returning. We have TRACHINUS. This is a unique weapon. It is a rapid-fire slug shotgun. There is only one of these in the game right now, and this is it. We eventually, I'm sure, are going to be getting more, but as of right now, this thing pretty much only has one niche. That is kill clip. That is using chill clip. It is a stasis weapon, so obviously it's going to be hitting chill clip. That's just a throwaway perk that they put on all stasis weapons. And knowing that it has chill clip, it's really not going to be used for much boss damage. We're going to be going with lead to gold as our other perk. And right now, even though assault mag is broken on this weapon, it's going to be getting fixed soon. It should not be providing an additional 50 RPM. It should only be providing 5 RPM. We are still going to be using assault mag, and in my opinion, arrowhead break is the best barrel that you can have for this gun. So assault mag, arrowhead break, and then obviously if you get this thing tier 5, you'll have your choice of perks. I prefer this thing with a range and or handling masterwork. You pretty much don't want a stability or a reload speed masterwork. Handling is probably going to be better than range, considering it is a slug shock and it does get bonus range when it is aiming down sights. But looking at the other perks on this weapon, is there anything else that is actually useful? There is some argument to use this thing for boss DPS if we are ever in another meta where slug shotguns are good. This thing is going to be competing with Heritage and Philo, namely, for any and all DPS. So some would say you can use Precision Instrument. I wouldn't rate Precision Instrument, and this thing doesn't have another damage perk, another good damage perk on it, rather, with the exception of Binary Orbit. But if you are just shooting a boss, you're not going to be able to trigger. You're not going to be able to trigger Binary Orbit, so you're pretty much stuck with Precision Instrument as your boss damage perk. And if you are using this thing for that, getting it with Rapid Hit and Precision Instrument. So besides chill clip, Precision Instrument in perk column 4, and lead from gold and Rapid Hit in perk column 3, is there anything else I would recommend? Well, yes, this thing does have access to get Rhyme Stealer and Headstone, and those do have various utility purposes. I feel that Rhyme Stealer is kind of in the same category as lead from gold. If you are using chill clip, I would personally take either of these, just depending on what your ammo is looking like. This archetype is getting I believe a nerf to its total ammo coming in Renegades, to its total inventory. I believe it's going to drop from like 24 to 21 rounds. I'm not going to correct myself if I am wrong. I will stand on business. But yeah, that pretty much is it for this. That pretty much it for TRACHINUS. It is unchanged from Arms Week, but you know, you can get it with the cool half-life from Card Arms and just have some interesting interactions with shaders. Easy, consistent tier 5s. Personally, if I can get one with chill clip, lead from gold, and literally anything else, I will be satisfied. If I can get one with Precision Instrument and Rapid Hit in the same type of gun, I will be satisfied. Now, I haven't talked about Crucible at all, because this archetype of shotgun, even though slugs are good in Crucible, rapid fire slugs have not proven their worth in Crucible, and this weapon does not have the perks to make any of that happen. Again, if I was to be using this thing in Crucible, personally, I'm going to be using it with Swashbuckler. And probably Killing Wind. I really don't see anything else. I mean, maybe Proximity Power, a new perk that came out this season. Getting an additional 18 melee stat, I don't think is make or break on most melees. That is, on most melee classes or abilities, that's going to result in a sub 1 second decrease in cooldown, and you're only getting that stat for around 10 seconds. So you may get one of your abilities back 1 second quicker if you are able to get a kill and then stay alive for an additional 10 seconds with Proximity Power. But I like the idea of Killing Wind. Killing Wind gives you a lot of range. It almost maxed out the range on most weapons, but you're going to be getting 51 mobility, 40 handling, 20 range, and an increase in the damage fall off distance, which for slugs is important because you are trying to maximize the range at which you can just slide people out across the map. But TRACHINUS, other than that, really, that is its niche. Just having chill clip as a primary rapid fire slug shotgun. So chill clip, lead from gold. I'm happy with this. Moving on to Ribbontail. Ribbontail is a stasis adaptive frame trace rifle, so you have to compare it to other stasis adaptive frame trace rifles. That being Unsworn from Sunder Doctrine. Now, Unsworn is just the superior option, okay? If you have access to Unsworn and you are using Ribbontail, I genuinely don't know what to tell you. You're actively throwing just to use Unsworn, but if you are not using Unsworn and you want to use Ribbontail, well, the only thing that I'm going to recommend on this is just using Detonator Beam and Subsistence. If you are using this to shoot a big chunky target like a champion or a major, you're going to want the extra damage from Detonator Beam. You're not going to really have the time to build up Killing Tally stacks, and even with that, the additional damage on a trace rifle from Killing Tally is not as useful as you would think it is. Tear. At the same time, precision fighted blows cause nearby targets to become severed. This seems like an easy way to spread sever, but because it is a trace rifle, it does have an issue getting consistent precision kills. Try to go kill some red bars with this thing with precision hits and just tell me how that goes for you. Detonator Beam, Subsistence. This is the role that I'm going to be going for on this thing. Anything else is pretty much pointless. Not even Surrounded. Not even the damage buff from Surrounded I would even consider as being worthwhile. That's how much damage that Detonator Beam is going to give you, and any of the other perks in perk column 3 aren't going to be useful. Some would say Proximity Power. I disagree. Proximity Power and Subsistence. Subsistence is more useful with Killing Tally, but even at that, I don't rate Proximity Power that much as a perk, because like I said, you're only getting an additional 18 melee stat and a maximum of 3 stats in PvE. This may be marginally more useful, but this is pretty much going to add up to like sub 2 second kill cooldowns, right? If this weapon had Swashbuckler in perk column 4, I may consider using Pure Power Swashbuckler, but we're not dealing in hypotheticals, we are dealing in. And like most fusion rifles, I prefer Airhead Brake and I prefer Enhanced Battery. You're going to want these things. There isn't much ways to get your magazine size bigger unless you are using a backup mag mod. You're better suited using a enhanced backup mag on this thing than you are using any of the batteries that give you enhanced magazine capacity. So this is your trace rifle. This is your Ribbontail. Probably going to be the shortest part of this video because I really do not rate this thing at all. Moving on to the PHONEUTRIA, FERA. I don't know what it was with them just making gun names for a call to arms and arms week that are just absolutely ridiculous to pronounce, okay? 3 of the 6 total weapons I cannot pronounce consistently. But we are moving on to the first, at the time, spreadshot hand cannons that we received in Destiny 2, and this thing was terrorizing Crucible for, around 2 or so months when it was first introduced. So it's a little bit better now, but it is still very, very good, and this is primarily a Crucible weapon, so we are going to be primarily reviewing a Crucible roll on this. And for your Crucible rolls on this, I prefer using Swashbuckler. Swashbuckler gives you more damage, which means more consistency, and Barrel Constrictor, after you get a final blow, you're going to have more consistency. The pellet projectile spread gets reduced. This thing has been covered to death. Everybody knows what their role they want on this thing is. I really can't add much more to the conversation than what anybody else has said. So I'm not going to say much more other than Tactical Mag just for additional magazine size, and the Arrowhead Brake just for the increased handling. Even if you added max range to this weapon in the form of accurized rounds and range masterwork, you're going to only to be getting an additional 2 meters of range. And if you know how range works in Destiny, an additional 2 meters or 2 meters of range in Crucible is basically nothing. The bonus range, the bonus soft range that you're going to be getting for Barrel Constrictor and Swashbuckler, the on-kill effects are going to make up for any range that you may hypothetically be losing by not running accurized rounds. But having Tactical Mag and Arrowhead Brake is going to make your range more consistent, and then whatever mod you want to run, like I said, having an enhanced backup mag is the best solution to getting enhanced magazine sizes on most weapons that can support it. So I'm not going to be wasting a magazine perk on really anything else, okay? And if you aren't using this thing in Crucible, if you want to use this in any other activity, it does have access to 1-2 Punch. 1-2 Punch is one of the best perks in the entire game, simply put. You can use 1-2 Punch and Threat Detector and or Threat Remover. Threat Remover is not brand new, but it certainly is interesting. Essentially, they're the same thing, except Threat Remover, all you need to do is just hit somebody with nearly all the pellets and spread to get the stats, whereas Threat Detector, you need to be near somebody. So Threat Remover gives you more stats for longer, whereas Threat Detector, it's a little bit stronger, but you know, you need to put yourself in danger to make the most use out of it. And this is another instance where I could recommend Proximity Power and Swashbuckler if that's the road you want to go on. Use this thing pretty much as a pseudo melee weapon. Proximity Power and Swashbuckler, because you're getting 5 stacks immediately whenever you get a melee kill, and your 5 stacks is going to be giving you 33% increased damage in PvE specifically, or your 1-2 punch, it's going to be giving you just a much more damage. So really, you have a lot of options with this thing. Everybody knows what they like on this hand cannon already. It has been beaten to death at this point, so I'm going to be moving on to the next weapon. SYNANCEIA. The next weapon, SYNANCEIA. Now this is interesting because almost every single perk is usable. Almost every single perk is usable with the way that it actually works. Waveframe Sword, it has an Eager Edge. Eager Edge, even though I think is the least useful of the bunch, I feel most people are just naturally going to gravitate towards it because people don't treat swords as damage options anymore. They treat them as mobility tools. But if you are using Eager Edge, in my opinion, there are 2 perks that you can be using, either Eager Edge and Relentless Strikes, just to, you know, have a little bit of additional ammo, or Eager Edge and Sharp Harvest. I feel like you're going to be getting the most utility from this weapon just by using Eager Edge and Sharp Harvest. 3 powered sword hits within 2 seconds grants you 5% of your special ammo reserves. It's just a little bit more special ammo. It's very easy to get three sword hits on anything. You know, most things you're hitting, if it isn't a red bar, is going to take 3 hits to kill anyway. Relentless Strikes will let you use your sword a little bit longer. Sharp Harvest will let you use your special weapon a little bit more often. Now, if you are using this thing as a damage option, there are 2 actually huge options that you can do. First things first, Assassin's Blade, an additional 15% increased damage on kill, and Elemental Honing. Elemental Honing is one of the best damage perks in the game. It is one of the few damage perks that allows you to get up to 35 or 40% damage consistently. So I like Elemental Honing in prismatic builds, and this also has access to Binary Orbit. Getting a elemental final blow with a weapon opposite its damage types gets 25 increased damage for 10.5 seconds. You combine Binary Orbit with Assassin's Blade, right? Essentially, you get a kill with a darkness weapon, that being a strand or a stasis weapon, which is very easy to do in this meta, considering that mid retrograde is the best weapon in the game, and it is a strand weapon. You get one kill with a strand and or stasis weapon. You get 25% increased damage. You quick swap to your SYNANCEIA, and then you unleash a waveframe heavy attack, and you do the wave across the ground. And if you want to use it a little bit longer, you have your Assassin's Blade after that for 15 plus 25% increased damage for a maximum of 6 seconds. Effectively speaking, it is a lot of damage that way. This is my favorite way to use this sword as a swap weapon. Besides that, I really wouldn't be considering anything else. Maybe Chain Reaction. Chain Reaction it's not good on waveframe grenade launchers, but it is good. It is still good on swords. It just depends on how you're using this thing. If you are using Chain Reaction, maybe Wellspring Chain Reaction. There isn't much good synergy with the other perks in the column, but you really can't go wrong with anything else. I just think Wellspring works the best with Chain Reaction because the only thing you're going to be using this on is just to clear out a bunch of red bars really, really fast, and to kill all your red bars. You get 9% ability split equally amongst your abilities depending on which enemies you're killing. Group of red bars, you're probably getting close to 35%, 40% ability energy. Anyway, this is this sword. If I can get one, I'm obviously going to want one with Eager Edge. If I can get one on the same sword with Elemental Honing and Binary Orbit, I'd be happy with that. But listen, 50-50 chance you're going to get the roll you want anytime you drop one of these tier 5, because it only has 6 perks. It's one of those. It really is that good. Okay, now moving on to the next weapon. We have Submersion. Now, Submersion is the easiest of the bunch to tell you what is good and what isn't good. Submersion, most crossbows, all crossbows, the 2 that we have in the game right now, they are only good as swap weapons. You aren't going to be using this as a mainstay DPS option. It is just inefficient considering how slow the weapon reloads. So what you want to do is you want to consider that you are going to be maximizing the damage of the weapon and minimizing the amount of time you have it in your hand. That being said, Chill Clip auto-loading holster. You genuinely cannot get better than this. It is actually a godsend that we got shield clip and auto-loading holster on this thing. I thought we were going to have to wait for another 4 crossbows before we finally got one with this perk combination, or a damage perk plus auto-loading holster, an easy damage perk plus auto-loading holster, I should say. Now, my preferred bolt is explosive bolt. I just like explosive bolt because I really don't care about the ammo grabbing factor of this. That only really matters in certain exhaust activities where your heavy ammo regen is decreased. And then I'm going for quick load rail. It gives you the most reload speed out of all of the options. So God forbid if you have to have this thing in your hand for more than 2 seconds, quick load rail is going to be good. Now you say to yourself, what if I actually want to use this as a mainstay damage option? Well, let me tell you, you're going to want to use impulse amplifier. The additional reload speed you're getting from impulse amplifier actually makes this thing worthwhile to use as a mainstay damage option. Now, if you're using this as a mainstay damage option, like against a boss or something, you're not going to want to use chill clip. More often than not, high ground is going to result in more damage as long as you can actually use it effectively. I don't think that firing line is that good compared to high ground, but firing line is a little bit easier to trigger considering it's just 20% increased precision damage. But if you can't hit precision hits consistently, high ground is going to be better. But like I said, with everything, it's only going to be better if you are actually hitting the target. And we have aggregate charge as well. Depending on how much damage or how many elemental modifiers debuffs you can apply to a boss, aggregate charge may be good. It is brand new, so there definitely is some more testing that needs to be done. But aggregate charge as a damage perk, it is basically at the same level as firing line and high ground. It's just situational. So by default, you're going to want this thing with chill clip and auto loading holster, and also in the third column, you're going to want it with impulse amplifier. So 2 of your 3 perks in the third column should be impulse amplifier and auto loading holster. And of those 4 perks that I mentioned, firing line, aggregate charge, chill clip, and high ground, chill clip is mandatory. And then, just pick 2 out of the 3. If I were to get this thing today, I would want it with aggregate charge and firing line because those are probably the most consistent of the bunch. But I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in the future we got something to use. High ground. This thing to use high ground on. I don't rate collective action, and I also don't rate headstone on this thing in the same way that I haven't even talked about any of the other 4 perks in perk column 3 for this weapon. I just don't think that they're even worth considering. Maximize your handling. If they have something like temporal armaments next season, like even more bonus damage to Cabal because it is a Cabal focused season next season, I would say use that. But besides that, I'm just maxing out handling if I don't have access to a increased damage perk like temporal armaments. Okay, so that was Submersion. Moving on to Romantic Death, and I think Romantic Death actually may be the worst of the 4 options because Waveframe Grenade Launchers still are not good. Ever since Chain Reaction got just obliterated, on Waveframe Grenade Launchers, they just have not seen any use in the meta. Basically no reason to be using this thing. Chain Reaction is a bait perk. You're not going to want to be using Chain Reaction. If you need a perk in perk column 4, you're going to be picking either Aggregate Charge or my preferred perk, Destabilizing Rounds. You don't want Impulse Amplifier because it ruins waveframes, and there is limited use for One for All and Surrounded. Even though One for All is easy to trigger on Waveframe Grenade Launchers, the amount of utility you're going to be getting from Destabilizing Rounds, I feel, is just better than having the increased damage from One for All. But if I had to pick 3 out of the 6 perks in perk column 4, I would be choosing One for All, Destabilizing Rounds, and Aggregate Charge. And in perk column 3, I'm choosing Repulsor Brace, specifically just for the combination with Destabilizing Rounds. And besides that, I'm probably going to be picking Reverberation and Stats for All. I wouldn't be upset if I had to run this thing with Reverberation and Destabilizing Rounds. Really, the only reason we want Repulsor Brace is just to have the Overshield, and the Overshield, where it does have synergy with other things in the game, it is very useful. But Reverberation, Destabilizing Rounds, you can't go wrong with that. It is away from grenade launcher. It really isn't that interesting. You do not want implosion rounds on these. You only want high velocity rounds, but since there's only 2 perks in perk column 2 for these things, it is impossible to not get the one you want. And I prefer volatile rounds on things like this just to maximize blast radius with a blast radius masterwork and probably a blast radius mod on it too if there is no bonus damage mod in the next season like temporal armaments. All right, yeah, I'm done talking about romantic death. And finally, there is Folded Root. That is the last weapon available to us in a Call to Arms. And as you can see, I have pre-selected cluster bombs and bipod, and this sure is to get some jimmies rustled, but I don't rate Folded Root. I don't rate Folded Root at all. It doesn't do anything unique compared to any other rocket launchers, compared to, you know, like its near peer comparison, heliocentric. It just doesn't do anything, but if you aren't using cluster bombs and bipod, this thing has access to nothing. I mean, it really has access to nothing in terms of damage perks, multi-kill clips, a throwaway on rocket launchers, lasting oppression hasn't been good since Season of the Undying. Chain reaction once again on a rocket launcher is literally pointless. Frenzy, you're doing all that for 15% increased damage, buddy. Just use bipod. That's pretty much it. And even then, in perk column 3, it has nothing going for it. It has reverberation, ambitious assassin, air trigger, danger zone, lead from light, and cluster bombs. Like I said, this thing does one thing, and that one thing is bipod cluster bombs. And bipod cluster bombs, use whatever you want. I mean, I really don't care what to put on this thing. Impact casing, hard launch, it really has nothing. Folded Root is the least impressive of all the weapons. I know I've said that 3 times now, but Folded Root does not have a niche compared to literally any other rocket launcher. It isn't good for boss damage. It's not good for ad clearing, because why on earth are you using a rocket launcher for ad clearing? Arguably, the only thing that this may be usable for is like killing champions, whatever. If you really want to throw away and put stabilizing rounds on it, I mean, I really don't know. I'm struggling. I have sat here and struggled to come up with any niche for this weapon. It really is just one of those. I wouldn't even be able to recommend any perks period, just because I don't know where to use this gun. So besides that, I would like to thank each and every single one of you for watching. Please, in the comment section down below, let me know which weapons you're going to be grinding for, which roles you're going to be grinding for. If you actually know what to use Folded Root for, please let me know. I'm just as curious as any of you. Besides that, I hope each and every single one of you have a great day. See you next time.